Okay, so let's start. Um, this presentation is more about Stata Frames. So if you've been to my previous talks, usually I focus heavily on data visualization and stuff. But quite a lot of you that I've interacted with are coming from the research field, are doing analysis, or writing your own programs. And I also get quite a lot of code to review for publications and stuff. And I've really seen the use of Stata Frames, right? So Stata Frames has existed since Stata 16, so it's already 2, 3 years old. And it's not a common tool. Yeah, it's could be because people have their predefined workflows or are just used to working in a static whatever data environment. But that's why I want to go over, let's say, 3 to 4 applications of how this could benefit you guys who are coming from, let's say, what I presume is mostly the academic side, right? Yeah. So frames, the concept of frames is not new. Yeah. The concept of frames is exists in other software, so SQL, R, Python, where you start your Stata instance, and in your Stata instance, you're loading a data set, right? And that's the data set you're working with. And so if you want to load a second data set, you would replace the one you're using, right? So you would say use auto whatever, and then you will say use something else clear. So you are replacing this, right? The concept of frames is that you're holding multiple data sets in your Stata memory at the same time. And there are many, many reasons to do this, right? And we'll go over them. So the idea is that once you know of the options of how to use data frames, you can, of course, apply these to your workflows. The only limitations I think I see is that you need newer versions of Stata, so 16 plus. But let's say most of us who are also writing programs, it's a huge, huge, huge plus. If you've used maps, geoplot command or everything, it uses frames in the background. So basically you have multiple map layers stored in the background. But let's start with an example that might be more relevant to some of your work, right? So a lot of us work with multi-level data sets, which means we are working with data sets which are sort of summarizing different parts of our environment, right? So it could be patients, doctors, hospitals, yeah? It could be students, teachers, schools, right? And so this is a very common setup. So it's a common setup where you have 100,000 patients, which could be looked after by 10,000 doctors in 1,000 hospitals, right? And so if you're doing some sort of analysis, you'll be saying, okay, let's analyze 100,000 patients and look at the attributes of doctors and hospitals, right? And so what you would typically do in the old workflow environment is that you would merge everything together. So which means that for each 100,000 patients, you would say, okay, what's the doctor identifier? You would merge this data set to this data set. So you're multiplying your doctors 10 times, right? Similarly, if each patient has a hospital assigned to him or her, uh, you would assign hospital attributes and you will be multiplying the observations 100 times, right? So it could be for hospital fixed effects, doctor fixed effects, whatever, right? Or you are looking at survival rates by different hospitals. And so the and this is multiplying our observations a lot, right? And as data sets are getting bigger and bigger, you're putting together bigger and bigger data sets unnecessarily, right? So sometimes all you need to do is attach 1 or 2 key variables from this data set or a few key variables to this data set. So you don't need to merge everything in one go, right? You can, of course, prepare everything in a way where you're saying, okay, let's just take the variables we need and merge those, right? So you say merge one to many, keep using doctor qualification. I don't know, something like that, right? But what frames can help us do is that it allows us to load each of these data sets in different frames. So you have co-loading the data sets, and then you're picking the variable from each data set as needed without having to create a huge merge, right? Without having to just duplicate these observations 100 times or these observations 10 times to create one massive data set. And this can start impacting your memory load, right? So if you have, I don't know, like my work PCs is okay, yeah, it cannot handle 2 million data points, right? And so these kind of optimizations can also help you do analysis faster and stuff like that. And so frames can help us with that. And so basically what frames is allowing us to do is compartmentalize our different data sets into different frames. We will see how this looks like. And then we can use these different compartments to do different types of things, right? And so not only can we work with multiple data sets at the same time, we can also do interesting things like push subsets of data sets into new frames, do analysis, pull back the results, or we're doing 50 regressions. You know, with Instata, each regression creates all these tables and return variables. And it's always a pain to deal with this. We can push these results to frames and then just use a results frame to plot the results. And this makes already life much more easier.